Welcome to this workshop, Mindful You, Mindful Clients. This is a workshop to discuss mindfulness, hopefully learn some new tools, some new ways of thinking about it. And I hope you'll get out paper and pen if you don't already have that, and be prepared at certain points to stop and do some work on your own. This workshop counts for an hour and a half of credits. Uh, there will not be exactly an hour and a half of material if you just let it run through. You need to participate and do a little bit of thought as you go through for yourself. And I think you'll get more out of it. I'm excited about it. This is something that I use a lot in my work and in my life. So um, let's get started. So what are the course goals? Well, they're for you to assess your level of familiarity with mindful practice and the implications for systemic therapy. You'll be guided through some mindful experiences, some meditations, and we can apply that both to yourself and to clients. I'm going to talk about some of the cautions that we should have when we consider using mindfulness with clients, alongside, of course, the benefits. And at the end, I'll ask you to complete a tool for evaluation of the workshop. What is mindfulness? Well, mindfulness is a word a lot of people know, but they may not know exactly what it is. That was the case for me. I knew it, and I thought I knew what it was for actually years before I took some training in it and got a deeper understanding. So it's very popular in some circles. It's taught in countless courses, in apps and training programs, but it is not just Buddhist meditation or just a relaxation technique. It has many benefits, but it's not a cure-all for everything. So let's assess how you see mindfulness. What do you know about mindfulness? How would you explain it? Perhaps you're talking to yourself and answering that question, or talking to me at the screen. But I'd like you to write down your definition. This is a point where we can stop the video. Please take some time and think about what you know about mindfulness and how you would define it. So write that down and consider, if you had to tell someone who knew nothing about it, what would you say? Or someone thought they knew about it and you wanted to explain your definition. Please take some time, write that down, and we'll come back in just a moment. Now, did you find that easy or did you find that difficult? Like a lot of things, I think sometimes when we believe we understand something and then we try to explain it, then it gets a lot more difficult. I think that's a quote from Einstein that says, if you can't explain something simply, you really don't fully understand it. And so I hope that you were able to write down a definition that satisfied you, and I'll share my definition in just a moment. We can all keep learning together. So here's our working definition for this workshop. Mindfulness is present moment awareness of thoughts, feelings, bodily sensations, and surrounding environment. Now that's kind of a mouthful, but it really covers all the things that are important about a mindful approach or being mindful in the moment. It is present moment awareness, so being aware of now, not lost in the past or the future, and aware now of several things: thoughts, feelings, bodily sensations, and the surrounding environment. And there are certain values that go with mindfulness, and they include this being open, curious, non-judgmental, accepting, compassionate, and kind. These are difficult, but they are wonderful aspirational values. So if we are trying to be a moment to moment aware of thoughts, feelings, bodily sensations, and surrounding environment, things that come in often are self-criticism and maybe even confusion, getting lost in our thoughts again. If we start this with a sense of openness and curiosity and trying to set judgment aside and being accepting and compassionate and kind, this works, and it works really well, and it does some great things for ourselves and for others. Why should we use mindfulness? Well, there are a lot of arguments for it, and I wanted to just cite one particular review of studies. This was over time reviewing multiple studies from different sources, and here's what their conclusions were, is that in 2021, mindfulness-based interventions called MBIs are effective for many common mental, physical, and social health conditions among different populations. The benefits include working with depression, anxiety, stress, insomnia, addiction, psychosis, pain, hypertension, weight control, cancer. It just sounds like everything. And it's not everything, and certainly you use mindfulness in different ways with different diagnoses and different conditions. But current evidence suggests mindfulness can be beneficial for healthcare professionals. That's us, folks, healthcare professionals, and others, doctors and many others, and within schools and workplaces. Generally, they're safe. Ethical aspects should always be, as with everything, ethical aspects should be taken into account. And just to continue the arguments for using mindfulness, like why use mindfulness, that previous slide detailed some information from a government source. There are also multiple therapy processes that have mindfulness as a part of the work, perhaps even the very basis of the therapy. So there's mindfulness-based relationship therapy, mindfulness-based stress reduction, mindfulness-based cognitive therapy, dialectical behavioral therapy, and acceptance and commitment therapy. Mindfulness can add value to your work regardless of the therapy you use. So my argument in this workshop is you do not have to formally be using one of these therapies listed here, though it's great if you're trained in that and you're using that. You don't have to be using that to get a benefit of a mindful approach. And if you are even just a bit more mindful yourself, it will improve, I think, your life and your therapy. So just to review, remember the working definition. Mindfulness is present moment awareness of thoughts, feelings, bodily sensations, and surrounding environment. There's one author that has said, the present moment is all we have. And that to me is just such a striking and true statement. We can spend our time in the past reviewing things that we've been through. We can look forward to or dread the future, but we don't really have either one of those. We can't yet live in the future, and we cannot repeat or redo the past. Everybody loves the idea of a mulligan. Let me do that over. Well, you can never do anything over. You might do the same behaviors, but it's in a different time and space. So the great thing to me about mindfulness is it's so reality-based. It is being aware right now of what we have, it just goes against our tendencies. We tend to want to spend our time in thinking about the past or the future. So I want to move to getting a little more defining mindfulness by looking at what it is not. And we'll look at that next. So let's just look at the idea of being mindless. Being mindless instead of mindful. Here's one description of being mindless: being physically in one place and mentally elsewhere. Raise your hand if you've ever been physically one place and mentally elsewhere. Like everybody, maybe a lot of the time. This is a description of not being mindful, being mindless. So another aspect of being mindless, along with physically in one place, mentally elsewhere, is the short attention span. We've been trained in this for the last several years. Commercials on TV have gotten shorter and shorter and shorter than they used to be. Everything on our phones goes so quickly, and we're really impatient if it doesn't. So we have a short attention span. I think the problem with that really is more a lack of attention. Like we have trained ourselves to not be paying attention. So it's an attention problem. Next is the idea of being distracted. Distractions are everywhere. That goes right along with having something of a deficit in attention. You don't have to have the diagnosis ADD to be distractible. In fact, our culture is just built for distractions. We are distracted by our phone. We are distracted in our phone by various things, from one thing to the next. Quick little hits of attention, meaning that our attention is not as intense as it could be, not as focused as it could be. We are distractible. Mindless could be defined as physically one place, mentally elsewhere, having a short attention span, being distracted, even possibly being addicted. Is this you? Is this your clients? One example I like to think of for mindless is the idea that you go somewhere, you're in the car, you drive somewhere yourself, you get there, and you don't remember driving there. It's probably happened to you. It's certainly happened to me and others that I've talked to. And so often someone begins a conversation with us, and our mind is somewhere other than our physical location, and they're well into what they're saying, and then we realize they're talking, or they realize we're not listening. Mindless is kind of an epidemic, and mindful can be the answer. It might be said that many of us, and many that we see, walk around in a negative trance. Now that trance idea sounds a little bit like hypnosis, but just the idea that in a negative sort of mood, perhaps depressed, perhaps not, but not aware of self, not aware of others in the environment, lost in thought, and disconnected. And as we think in terms of systems, we want to promote and be aware of connections. Mindlessness leaves us disconnected. So the problem list continues, and here are some things that are somewhat connected and some are not. The brain is captivated by interesting things. This is pretty well known and understood. We really like more interesting things than things that we might find boring. That would be true of a child, to a teenager, to an adult, to a senior. If it looks interesting, for whatever reason, we're captivated by that, meaning our brain puts its focus there. And especially if we see something that is a potential threat. We might not see that consciously, but our mind perceives a threat, and then a good bit of brain energy is taken to look at that, strategize about it, worry about that. Another thing the brain is doing continuously that is a little self-sabotaging and not helpful is we're always making judgments. The making judgments make sense related to worry and threats because we might need to judge, is this person harmful or are they safe? Is this situation comfortable or is it feel unsafe? Those kinds of judgments and other kinds of judgments of preferences. I like this, I don't like that. They're always being made all the time. This takes mental energy and it takes us away from present moment awareness. So just thinking about this, finding things interesting, finding things threatening, finding things that we need to judge. Other ways you might describe this is that behaviors are often automatic and unconscious. They're just outside our awareness. And we have responses that come up automatically because of the conditions, because of the way our spouse said something, because of the way the weather is at a particular time. We have conditioned responses and reactive behaviors. You've seen loops in interactive behavior cycles where someone does this, the other one does that, and they're off to the races and they're going to go through the very same experiences they did the last time they had this argument. These things are so often automatic and unconscious. The more we can bring them into our conscious, the more we can make them less automatic, the healthier they're likely to be. This is another time I want you to stop the video for a moment and consider what automatic or reactive behaviors come to mind in your clients or yourself. Just allow whatever comes up first, whether it's in yourself, something that you see, or something that happens in your clients. Take a few moments to write down some behaviors that you see, perhaps something you'd like to change. There are some mindful answers to the problems we've been discussing. Let's look at key concepts in mindfulness that you can use for yourself and for others. I really like these because they're basic and they apply across the board to us and to those that we work with. So the first key concept is present moment. Mindfulness is really all about the present moment. Being aware of now as opposed to being lost in thought about the past or about the future, about what we think might be coming. That's the heart of mindfulness. And just to remind ourselves and to remind others that truly the present moment is all we have, if we can be here now, we can give better attention to our relationships, to our own health, to our goals for the future. But first, we need to focus on being here now. Noticing. Noticing is becoming an observer of yourself and your surroundings. I've described it to folks as stepping outside yourself a bit and trying to become an observer of what you're doing, what you're thinking, what you're feeling, and paying attention to the five senses, to what you smell, what you touch, what you feel, what you see, what you hear. Those things can be grounding in a way and pull us away from distractions and pull us into the present moment. So noticing is that intentional focus on what is right here what is now. Body awareness. As we mentioned the five senses already, paying attention to what we smell and see and hear and feel, touch, uh, that is the beginning of body awareness. Sometimes intentionally doing a body scan of beginning at the head and going down and noticing how the different parts of the body feels. Being aware of our body is a foreign thing to many people. They simply operate daily and don't actually notice how things are going unless something hurts or something goes wrong. I've said to some folks, it feels like they believe that they are only the brain inside their head and their body is just a vehicle to carry that around. If we have more of a sense of like, I am my body, not just my thoughts, then what my body's doing is important. And what my body is doing is me. And awareness of how I feel and what I smell and what I see, those things can bring such peacefulness at times, but have to be developed. They don't seem to be natural for many folks to have awareness of their body. A really important aspect of mindfulness is to be non-judgmental. And as I've just studied this, thought about this over the years, it really is a little bit laughable that we would say we must be non-judgmental because we, as I said earlier, we are always judging. The twist that I would put on this, rather than saying I'm going to be non-judgmental and I'm deciding from today on I won't judge, since that's not likely to happen, is to increase our awareness of judgments that we make. It seems to me that being less judgmental is more likely than non-judgmental. It is so habitual for us to say, I really like that. I really don't like that. I really like her. I really don't like him. We're constantly making these judgments. When we start to become aware that we are judging, we can perhaps, as they say in the movie, suspend judgment or suspend reality temporarily. If we can suspend judgment, we can realize the effect that judgment has on things. So often when we're trying to be aware, say body awareness, and we say, well, I want to be aware of what I smell and what I feel and what I touch. Well, often the first thing that happens is I become aware of a smell and I don't like that smell. I become aware of a certain feeling in my body and I don't like that feeling in my body. But there's growth and awareness that can come when we can set the judgment aside and just be curious about what we're feeling, what we're seeing, even about our thinking. When we become aware that we're caught in a stream of thought, and then we become aware that we are judgmental about the stream of thought, to step back and notice, be aware of it, and try to set aside the judgment and just wonder about it and be curious. There's real possible growth in that. That's why being not judgmental is such a key concept. So we've talked about several key concepts: present moment awareness, noticing, body awareness, being non-judgmental, and then finally self-compassion. If you become aware of yourself and you are highly judgmental and you're noticing and you're aware of your body, you can actually be worse off than before you were paying attention to the present moment or body awareness. So the self-compassion and being non-judgmental are incredibly important. To have a stance of self-compassion, not excusing bad behavior, but having a sense that I'm a normal, imperfect person and how I behave is like other normal, imperfect people. When we have a sense of self-compassion, we can address the self-critical nature that so many of us have. I believe therapists have this. I know certainly my clients have this. Folks tend to be very critical of themselves, even call themselves stupid and call themselves names. We need a sense of self-compassion to live in a place of awareness, because more awareness with a negativity will actually be worse than not being aware. So we can talk further about that. That could be an entire training in and of itself. But just to review, noticing the present moment, aware of our body, as non-judgmental as possible, and having self-compassion. Even having compassion on our tendency to be judgmental. Those are key concepts in meditating and mindfulness. So in a moment, I want to coach you through a listening meditation, but let me teach you also a little bit about how you can use this with clients. This is very simple. This can be an entry-level drug kind of meditation for clients, and it can take a few moments, or it could take the entire hour that you're sitting with them. Probably wouldn't be the best use of time, but it can take a little to a long time, is my point. And it is external, so it's not getting into their body where they may have some attachments and some associations that get them upset. So it's very simple, it's very easy, but it typically does show, as you watch your client or watch yourself if you do it, more calmness, more clarity, just a sense of coming into the space where you are as opposed to your mind wandering off as it so often does. So I'll just ask you to get in a comfortable place. You're likely sitting in a chair, so be sure your feet are flat on the floor, and as best you can, loosen any tension that you notice from your legs up through your head. Don't sit clenched while you're doing this. Just try to relax. And if you're comfortable with it, close your eyes. The same thing you might say to a client, that if they're comfortable, close their eyes. If they're not, they can just perhaps dim their vision, perhaps look down, be unfocused for a few moments while listening to coaching through a listening meditation. So I'd like you just to notice the sounds in the space where you are. Listen to the sounds and be patient. Listen for layers of sounds. Wherever you are, no matter how quiet or noisy it seems to be, there are layers of sound. Our hearing is one of our senses, one that we don't pay too much attention to, we just use as needed. But if we focus on it, we can hear more than we would just walking through our day. So, for instance, even hearing heating and air conditioning blower, which often is the case in rooms that people are sitting, there are layers of sound in that white noise kind of sound there. High, low, middle frequencies. And often you may hear your own body gurgle. You may hear a sound outside of the room that you're in, outside of the building that you're in, sounds that are close by, sounds that are distant. Just take a few moments and listen. Now, what did you hear? You can open your eyes back or keep your eyes closed, but what did you hear? Were the sounds close by or distant, in your body, outside your space? Did you notice any difference in your level of calm or level of tension in doing this? This can be a very simple thing to coach your clients through, but to do this yourself through. I had a client once who was an attorney, and he would get very nervous before depositions, and he needed a simple tool, and I asked him to do this because you could do this for a few seconds in any space and no one around you know that you're doing it. Just taking a few moments to turn your attention to, what do I hear? What sounds are here? So I hope you will try, if you have not already, listening meditation both for yourself and your clients. Now let's try grounding meditation. It could really just be called grounding. It's not so much meditation as it is awareness and mindfulness. So again, I encourage you to have your feet flat on the floor. Let your weight just settle into the chair, the cushion, wherever you are at the moment. Close your eyes if you're comfortable with that. And draw your attention to just 2 of our 5 senses. And we'll begin with touch. So just be aware that things are touching you right now. What we might start with is the air in the room. There's a coolness or a warmth. There's stillness or there's movement of the air. Touch includes all other levels of pressure from elastic or belts, glasses, soft coverings of clothes. Just choose one part of the body, perhaps, to pay attention and notice what is touching you. Are there things touching that feel a little unpleasant? Are there things touching that feel very pleasant and soothing, perhaps? Then turn your attention to smell. Smell is a neglected sense by most of us, often only used with strong odors. When we smell something that smells bad, we notice it right away. Something that smells perhaps sweet or attractive, we notice it right away. There are many in-between subtle smells or aromas that we could notice if we paid attention. I was watching a video once of some men on an expedition, and they were close to a volcano, and there was a blind man in the vehicle, And he could tell at what level they were by smell and sound, because he could not see, but he was accurately describing where they were. Smell's very powerful. Just allow your focus on smell to work for you for a few moments. What do you smell? Now, if you can join the two together while noticing smells, also notice what is touching you, what you are touching. If your mind wanders, try to bring it back to aromas and feelings of touch. So did you find that pleasant? What was pleasant about that? Did you find it difficult? What was hard? How might you use this with clients? I recall coaching one client to simply hold on to a lectern when the person had to give a speech, and to allow their attention to go from the fear that they had and the content of the speech just into their hands and into the wood or metal that they felt of the lectern, just for a few seconds, just to notice that, so that they could ground there and calm their nervous system. Perhaps you can think of really cool ways that you could use grounding meditation. The body scan relaxation is really preparation for meditation. It's not exactly meditating, but it is an increase in awareness as one thinks about the different parts of their body and relaxes it. This is likely something that you're aware of, that you've done. I recall I was in graduate school many, many years ago and was taught this for the first time and was just amazed at the effect that it had. And I think I had that reaction, and others do as well, because we do stay out of touch with our body so much of the time. We really are not aware of what the little toe on the left foot feels like most of the time during the day, or the crevice in your arm, one of your fingers, just name a body part. We are probably not aware of it unless it's causing us pain or we're using it at that particular moment. We stay pretty much unaware. So the body scan is asking a person to focus on the body from head to toes, or I often start at the toes and move up to the head. There are arguments for doing either direction. But as we pay attention in those ways, it's both relaxing, and I will say for some people, it's a bit disconcerting. They're not used to this level of awareness. and so they don't like it. Um, that is the exception. Most folks do like it and find it very relaxing, very helpful. This is, as I said, this is a preparation to meditate, but you through the process you are being mindful, and so I want to guide you through this, and you guide others perhaps through this as well. When I knew how to do this a long time ago, I was a youth leader and used it with a group at one point. And teenagers are, they get in whatever position they like. And one boy was sprawled across the floor, and others were gathered around, and they all got quiet, and I'm guiding them through this relaxation, and pretty soon we heard, because the boy on the floor had gone off to sleep, he got so relaxed. So there is the danger that you'll go to sleep, but a lot of us are sleep deprived, so that's not a huge problem. The ideal here is to stay aware of your body, notice it from head to toes, and get in a relaxed place that you're not usually in. And then to allow that to stay for a while. Uh, Let me guide you through it, and hopefully this will be very pleasant for you. And if you have not used it before with clients, you might do this as well, especially with the client that's really uptight, comes in uptight, and you can see that in their body. The client that has a life that's very stressful, it can be a little mini retreat for them. So let's do it together. Again, put your feet flat on the floor. Try to sit fairly erect in your chair, hands resting folded together in your lap or on your thighs, and close your eyes if that's comfortable for you. So I'd just like you to focus first on your feet and your toes. Perhaps your feet are bare, sitting there under your desk or wherever you are at the moment, or most likely they're in socks or shoes or some sort of covering. So notice how warm your feet feel at this moment, or how cool they feel, and just focus on your toes, the big toes, the little toes, toes in between. If it helps to wiggle them around a little bit to pay attention, do that. So notice your toes, the ball of your foot, top of your foot, pressure that you may feel, the arch of your foot, your heels, and then your ankles. And if there's clenching or tightness in any of that, relax. Then draw your attention to your calf muscles, your legs between your ankles and your knees. Do they feel warm, cool, tight, relaxed? As best you can, let them relax. And then the area around your knee, allow that to relax, be at ease. From your knee to your hip, your thighs, perhaps where your arms or your hands are resting. Notice the contact that you feel there, the pressure that you feel. Notice the pressure of sitting. How much of the chair or wherever you are at the moment You feel the pressure under your thighs. Those are perhaps the largest muscles in our body. They can hold a lot of tension. Just allow them to relax. Now notice your buttocks. Notice your bum, as some say. Again, muscles that can be relaxed or tight. And as you're finding your seat there on the earth, on the chair, allow that to relax and be at ease. And notice your abdomen, all your wonderful lower parts that make up your body. Are you holding tension there? One symptom of trauma is an abdomen that is pulled up and raised, crowding our internal organs. Allow your abdomen to drop, relax, be at ease. Now also notice your mid-torso around your rib cage. Notice whether your belly is moving in and out with breath or held tense. Allow it to relax and be at ease and do its work on its own, as it has unconsciously for many years and will continue to. Move your attention around to your low back. How do you feel the pressure there of sitting back against a chair, a couch, something else? Allow even that to relax. Perhaps wiggle a bit in your chair and let tension out of that go. Your mid-back, your upper back. Notice how they feel. Notice if they're tight or tense. Let them relax. Notice your chest, your shoulders. Allow your shoulders to be back and down, not up and tense, but just relaxed. Don't force them back. Don't allow them to pull forward. Then from the shoulders down to the elbows, allow your biceps and triceps to relax. Allow your shoulders to stop pulling up in worry or tenseness. Just for these few moments, let go and allow this to all be relaxed. From your elbows to your wrists, relax your upper arms, your lower arms, your wrists and your hands. Allow them to be at ease and comfortable. So now, from the neck down, we've attended to every part of the body. Check again to see if you've re-tensed or clenched up anything, and allow it to relax. And now from the base of your neck to the base of your head, allow your neck to hold you up and be strong and clear and erect, but not tense more than it needs to be. And from your neck to the top of your head, notice tension perhaps in your temples, in your brow, around your eyes, in your jaw, around your ears, even in the scalp. Allow anything that has been clenched, tight, tense, just to relax. When your mind drifts, return your attention to the body. It's not if our mind will drift, it's when. But when we attend carefully, we can relax our entire body. When you have pain in a particular place, perhaps in your leg, in your arm, allow the area around that to relax. There may just be some joint or muscle or other kinds of pain that you cannot get rid of right now. But you can relax all around that and allow it to be at ease. If your eyes are still closed, often I will coach folks to go to a place that they feel safe and secure in their imagination. While they're in this relaxed state, while you are in this relaxed state, imagine yourself in a place that feels safe, feels very comfortable. And you can look around and enjoy for a few moments. So you may, as you are ready, return back from that place, open your eyes, come back into the room. Did you find this challenging or comforting, or some combination of the two? That was a body scan relaxation. It can be a wonderful tool for yourself and for your clients. Now let's talk about some cautions for use of mindfulness. More present time awareness could cause increased physical or emotional pain in some. There are folks who are trying not to think about their pain. They have managed to avoid it, to ignore it, to distract themselves out of it, or take medication. And that's how they've been managing their pain. So in those folks, we would be wise to use mindful approaches, perhaps within ourselves and not with them, or use them very carefully and use the more coarse kinds of coaching, such as the grounding or the listening exercise, rather than the full body scan. Attempting them to get in touch with the whole body is probably not helpful for them, at least in the short run. Others have a loose hold on reality, and they could be triggered into a dissociative event. To assess for this, you could use the dissociative event scale and just really look into this before you use mindful meditation or any kind of coaching in your sessions with them. You would need to assess in advance if your clients need this or not. Many clients do not. This is more the exception than the rule, but we would be remiss to not be careful in how we use any tool with clients. There's a third category. High anxiety clients may panic at the prospect of letting go of their usual coping mechanisms. I have a personal experience of this, of coaching a couple, where it seemed to me that both needed to relax, and walking them through a body scan would be very helpful. And for the husband, it was. For the wife, it was not. She shifted around during the time that I was walking them through the progressive relaxation, And when I stopped, she grabbed her purse and reached for her medicine, which I assume was some sort of tranquilizer, anti-anxiety medication she was taking. So for her, it was not helpful, and I regretted that. I did not know in advance the effect it would have on her, and I didn't use that again with her. So mindfulness is an individual intervention, and we do sit primarily with individuals, even as MFTs. But I believe it does have a systemic benefit. Learning to notice will better show impacts of systems. This could apply to you, could apply to your clients. If they become more self-aware and they are noticing more of what is happening around them in reality and not in the visions of the future or the rehashing of the past, but the reality of now, they'll be better able to see what is happening in families and other systems they're a part of. Mindful awareness of the present moment can increase just being with others versus distracted and absent. As we talked about earlier, when someone starts talking and then you realize they're talking but you weren't thinking about what they're saying, being distracted and absent emotionally is certainly not good for relationships. It's not good for us as therapists. It's not good for our clients and the relationships they're in. So the more we can be aware of the moment, mindfully aware of the present moment, the more we can be with others. And as we have values of self-compassion and being non-judgmental, this absolutely applies to relationships, not only to ourselves, and it applies not only to others, but it applies to ourselves. Thanks for being part of this training. I hope it makes a real difference for you, personally and with your clients. To receive your continuing education certificate, you'll need to complete the form, and I also encourage you to check out my podcast. Very short little episodes on how to be mindful in daily life. You can find it anywhere you find podcasts. And then there's a list here of various articles and resources that could support you as you maybe work toward being a more mindful individual, a more mindful you, and more mindful clients.